This is Marketing Over Coffee with Christopher Penn and John Wall.
Good morning. Welcome to Marketing Over Coffee. I'm John Wall.
I'm Christopher Penn.
And you've said it is Lunar New Year, so that has opened up all kinds of stuff. That's the big news. So what's on your list that Lunar New Year has brought to us?
Yes. So for folks who are unaware, February 17th is the year of the horse. I believe it is, if I remember correctly, I think it's the fire horse. And one of the big things this means is that companies all around Asia, in particular China, all try to get new products to market and things like that in celebration of the new year to try and kick things off, start with as fortuitous a start as possible. This means that all of the AI companies, absolutely no exception, they have been cranking out releases as fast as they can in the lead up to February 17th because they want to be at the top of the world, at least for a few weeks. And so we've had a bunch of new things come out. So Moonshot AI, the Kimi K2.5 model, was state of the art for a hot minute, followed by Z AI's GLM5, which also was state of the art for a hot minute. And as of the morning of recording this, Alibaba's Qwen 3.5, which is a big jump for them, now currently almost state of the art. What's really interesting is that the East Asian AI companies are all still going the open weights route. So what that means is Kimi K2.5, GLM5, and Qwen 3.5 are free. You can, if you have the hardware to run them, to download them, they are free. And so if you've got servers and stuff laying around that have lots of GPUs and lots of video RAM, you can have a state-of-the-art AI model that is incredibly powerful. It costs you no money, and your data doesn't have to leave the premises. Supposedly, GLM5 in particular is on par with Claude Opus 4.5. Now, I did a cost test to compare the two to see how they would work for API costs. So I gave one task to Claude Opus 4.5. I gave the exact same task to GLM5. Both models did a great job. Both models completed the task pretty successfully. Claude Opus, the task cost in API costs would be $11 for this particular task. GLM5, 22 cents. So same power, same capability, much different price. So that has obviously caught a lot of coders' eyes, because if you're doing a lot of high-speed coding, you want the smart models, but you also don't want to spend $1.5 gazillion, because you can easily, if you're using Claude's API, you can easily rack up a few $1,000s a month. Now, if that was a few dozen dollars a month, which is about the same scale, then that suddenly becomes a lot more palatable. Alibaba also released a new vector database that they open sourced for free. And not open source, but was the talk of the town. ByteDance's CDance 2.0 video model created a synthetic fight between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise that was so realistic. Everyone in Hollywood lost their crap. The Motion Picture Association started complaining to the World Trade Organization that you're violating our intellectual property rights, and the usual stuff that comes out of Hollywood. But some notable Hollywood producers watched the video and said, well, we're cooked, because that right there is such incredible fidelity, such good quality. Yes, there are mistakes. Like, there are little things. No one will care. When you watch that video, you're like, yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's there. Well, this is something that it does go right up against all the digital effects in Hollywood, like all of this infrastructure that's been built to do all this stuff. If you can just have a prompt crank that out, this kind of completely changes the game. And it doesn't have to be piracy and problems, right? Like, it can be the first studio that's ahead of the game can grab these tools and just start making their own characters, but they'll be able to put all this work to bear. I don't know. What do you think as far as adoption for this? Like, is this, in 18 months, is the game going to be completely changed, or how long is it going to take this to work its way through?
You just highlighted the most important phrase there, which is your own characters. So right now, everyone's saying, oh, well, it can do an Avengers knockoff or whatever, or Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise can fight on screen. And of course, that's a demonstration of capabilities. But what people are not realizing is if you are a up and coming studio or an indie studio, you can create your own characters. You can create that, roguish Korean female assassin character that becomes beloved in a franchise. Not a real person behind it. No human. There's no press tour because the actor does not exist. You would create these characters. And as long as you're good at storytelling, as long as you're good at the craft of creating entertainment, you're not going to need to film anything physically, right? You will create it all digitally. Especially if you're an indie shop, setting up a single shoot for a single day, it can be tens of thousands of dollars from fees and insurance and actors pay and lighting and all that stuff. Even if your AI costs you $1,000 a month in compute, that you are still way ahead of the game. And so I think there's going to be a lot of particularly smaller shops that will be like, you know what? We can build this feature film on 10 grand of budget rather than $10 million to make a film. And if they put it up on YouTube, they set up Patreon or whatever, then they might hit positive ROI very, very quickly. I'll tell you something really funny. Over the holidays, for fun, I gave Claude Opus the task of writing a trashy romance novel. It was the first newsletter issue for me for this year, and it did a very capable job. And that was about like $12 worth of API credits. I put it up on Amazon in the Kindle Unlimited program, and just for giggles, assuming no one's going to read this thing, the cover says by Christopher Penn and Claude Opus, right? So we're not even trying to hide that this is clearly AI generated. It has generated $36 worth of Kindle reading time so far. And it's gotten 5-star reviews, even though we disclosed this was 100% made by AI. Because I was having a conversation with somebody about this. Once you've consumed your favorite creator's content, then you're like, okay, well, what else am I going to read? And when you look at the third bench, I guess, of content in Kindle, you're like, okay, that looks good. And you read it, and you're like, actually, that's not bad. And you keep reading, and authors get paid on a per page basis in the Kindle Unlimited program. So I see that AI generated content, well done, is economically viable because the costs of production are so low that you could crank out. I mean, Amazon had to put a restriction. You may not publish more than 10 books a day. Right.
Well, yeah, that is kind of good. Yeah, if you're cranking out like 1,000 a month at $35 a piece, that's you're paying for rent and you're all good at that point. So having gone through that process, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, would you do that again now? Is it worth doing? Or, was it it was just fun as a thought experiment, but you wouldn't spend any more time on it? Like, where are you at with it?
I think we're going to use it as a bench test. So as new models come out, I'll give it the same general plot or whatever, or, same general task. Let's write a spy thriller or whatever, and see how they evolve. Because this is something I've been doing for a while now, ever since July of 2021. I've had it doing fan fiction, but now I think I'm just going to go to straight regular fiction. Having it write something, and in July 2021, what it created was garbage, right? It was barely even the correct word order. By 2023, it was coherent but not great. It lost cohesion from chapter to chapter. Forgot the plot and stuff like that. By 2025, it can write a decent novel that's no worse than the other stuff that's like on the Kindle Unlimited store. Because boy, there is some fiction on there that is just a hot mess, and you can tell it's not AI because AI would do it.
wouldn't be so poor, right?
Exactly. And so, 2026, 2027, if we keep having these tools create this stuff, I think we'll see the natural progression of their capabilities until they get to a point where it's like, yeah, it actually would write a book that I would want to read.
Okay, yeah, I want to talk more about that. We just have to take a second, though. Talking about tools that make your life easier, want to check out Framer. If updates to your site feel harder than they should, Framer is a shortcut you've been looking for. Framer is a website builder that turns .coms from a formality into a tool for growth, helping thousands of businesses, from early-stage startups to Fortune 500s, build better websites faster. Changes to your Framer website go live to the web in seconds with one click, publish without help from engineering, helping your team reduce dependencies and reach escape velocity. Framer is an enterprise solution with premium hosting, enterprise-grade security, and 99.99% uptime SLAs that give the world's leading brands like Perplexity, Miro, and Mixpanel the confidence they need to build their websites in Framer. Framer works just like your team's favorite design tool with real-time collaboration, a robust content management system with everything you need for great SEO, and advanced analytics that include integrated A/B testing. Your designers and marketers are empowered to build and maximize your .com from day one. Whether you want to launch a new site, test a few landing pages, or migrate your full .com, Framer has programs for startups, scale-ups, and large enterprises to make going from idea to live site as easy and as fast as possible. Learn how you can get more out of your .com from a Framer specialist or get started building for free today at framer.com/MOC. For 30% off a Framer Pro annual plan, that's framer.com/MOC for 30% off. Framer.com/MOC. Rules and restrictions may apply. Yeah, check them out. Again, it just makes your life easier when it comes to site hosting, and we thank them for their support of the show. Yeah, well, the other thing I was thinking of is you should write a sequel. Next tool comes out, have a sequel and see, that way, because you never know. Maybe you'll build some momentum and by 4 or 5, you'll have people that will just buy it because they want the next chapter of what's going on.
Yeah. Now, I think the other thing that's important to acknowledge is that, there is a downside to this, which is that every minute somebody spends reading an AI generated work is a minute they're spending not reading a human generated work. To be clear, it is taking money away from actual creators who are working hard to write an actual fiction novel, in 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. I mean, we've written books and in the nonfiction realm, and we know how much work goes into them. So we can't be blind to the fact that, yes, the machines created a pretty decent story. I actually read my own book. I was like, that was not a bad story. However, it comes at a cost, not just the compute cost, but it comes at an opportunity cost to other creators who are human. So while I'm okay doing it just as an experiment, it's not something I'm not going to be firing up an agentic swarm to create 10,000 books a day or whatnot, even if it would do a great job, because I think there are ethical issues there that we need to figure out. And certainly one of the things that I'm going to be talking with our CEO, Katie, about is maybe we take the profits from that book and we make this part of our social good campaign. Like, okay, 100% of profits from this book will be donated to the Trevor Project, for example.
Yeah, well, there's a whole bigger story there that I don't want to go down, but I've been kind of kicking around a lot recently. It's just this idea that it's horrible today that when we see tools that create massive productivity gains, our initial thought is like, this is going to destroy jobs and people are going to be in trouble, because we've been trained to believe, and unfortunately it's rightfully so, that when these tools show up, 99% of the benefit is going to go to 1% of the economy. Like these tools don't make life easier for everybody. It's the number one concern is jobs get destroyed. And so it's actually making life worse for everybody. But that's a massive geopolitical, problem and issue that I'm not going to be able to finish in the next 15 minutes here as we talk. But
it's not, but it's worth acknowledging that it exists and that no one has come forward with a good solution yet, other than, the current football that gets kicked around is universal basic income. But short of that, there really isn't a good answer, because it does create a concentration of wealth and it does create job issues. We know from the Stanford Future Work Study that was done last updated in November of 2025 that people who are early in their career, 22 to 25 years old, are seeing 20 to 25% less employment compared to other cohorts since the advent of generative AI. And that line is going in the wrong direction if you are in that age bracket. As a parent of a kid who's in college now, my kid's job prospects don't look great because so many of those tasks are things that machines can do better, faster, and much, much cheaper than a human being. And so one of the things and I was talking with our friend Cece Chapman about this, one of the things that we have to start thinking about is educating folks on skills like entrepreneurship, because there's no shortage of good ideas. And these tools now give you 10 or 15 or 20x the capabilities you used to have. We were talking on the Trust Insights live stream recently about Claude Cowork, and that it gives you a legal assistant and a finance assistant and a sales assistant and a marketing assistant in a nice little boxed product. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, that might be enough to bootstrap your company and get an idea off the ground that you would not otherwise have been able to do.
Yeah. And you hit another key point with that. So much of our educational system was matching the factory mindset of, training people to obey and follow rules and be, create productive output, all things that machines excel at. So, the educational machine totally has to change for this new future and adjust. So yeah, there's a lot on that front, but the other thing we know is the case is every time these new technologies come out, there's all kinds of new industries that, that don't even exist today that will become a thing because of these tools. So yeah. And in fact, one of those things that we've got going is, looking at your website and figuring out if you're allowing the large language models in and see if you're going to have any shot at getting yourself into the quote unquote search results for these models. And you put together the page grader, which we've pushed. If you've over in the Analytics for Marketers Slack channel, you'd already know about this. And we've emailed folks through Trust Insights, but you'd been playing around and you finally just like light bulb went on that you could easily just build this out as a tool. What else went into that when that came together? And what have you learned from it now?
Yeah, so it's a tool we call that I call AI View, which you can get at trustinsights.ai/AI View. I misspelled that on the banner. That was great of me. And essentially what it does is it looks at 4 components that we know are part of the consideration for how AI looks at your data. So it looks at 4 things. Number 1, it looks at your metadata. Because it's all structured data. Number 2, it looks at what's called linearized content, which is essentially like looking at your page through a screen reader's lens to see what's there. It looks at, it looks at your structured data, which is different than your metadata. So structured data is like your JSON LD. And then it does a content alignment test to see, is the page coherent, right? Is what's in the structured data, does it match what's on the page? Because if you say, we're all about waffles and, in your structured data and your page content's about blueberries, like, okay, clearly they're related, but they're not semantically the same thing. And so if when AI draws back the first 400 to 600 words of your page, it looks at that as part of its internal ranking and goes, is this relevant? It may say, no, it's not. And so you still don't get the nod. We got to at some point put together like a thing on the whole GEO thing, because there's still a tremendous amount of snake oil about it. And we have not talked about it in depth to, the 3 phases of it, how you accommodate each of the 3 phases and stuff. And we really need to do that.
That sounds good. I'll add AEO to a full-on episode for us coming up so we can kick that around. And as you said, you got trustinsights.ai/AI View. You can go grab that. You throw on a page and it'll give you a report back. You definitely want to check that out.
And it's free.
No charge. That's right. No charge for the first page. After that, you'll have to...
it's always free.
The first one's always free. Again, software and drugs, the only industries that have users, not customers. So, all right. So this is fascinating. I just haven't had a chance to bring this up, but something that happened this winter, I finally decided, well, there's 2 things that happened. One is that I had this cross-country ski trainer, this thing that NordiTrack, which is like straight out of the 80s, ridiculous exercise machine, but it just never died and I was still using it. And I was so sick of it. And our friend Jenny Dietrich said, well, why don't you just pretend that it's broken and throw it away? And I was like, I can do that? Really? And she's like, yeah, just do it. And then on top of that, I'm sick of the treadmill too. Like I've literally run for decades on the treadmill. Now, like, it's insane how many miles I have on the treadmill. I was like, I can't take this anymore either. And so that got me digging into Peloton and exercise bikes. But then the thing that I found that really got me was called Zwift, which is it's virtual bike racing. It's insane. You hook it up to the Apple TV and you are like, biking down the road with these guys that were in the Tour de France. And it is just hilarious. The whole process has been amazing because I didn't realize like this is not for hobbyists. Like these people are dead serious. It's sort of like, it took me forever to come up with a good analogy, but this is where I'm at so far. It's like if you and I were at the Super Bowl and I had dwarfism and you just tossed me out on the field and said, hey, good luck, go get him, buddy. it's not even that everybody that it's unfair. There's literally like you kind of have ethical problems with me being out there because I'm just getting my ass beat so entirely. There's a podcast out there that talks about it. It's called the Going Nowhere Podcast. They talk about everything that goes into this, but it is amazing. It has changed my workout. There's tons of data. You can kind of see how much power you're cranking out. You can race against people, which makes it a lot more interesting. And I never realized the difference between, with a treadmill, you just have the pace that you monkey with or the elevation. And so you can have your heart rate go up and down. But this thing has real-time heart rate monitor and watts and revolutions per minute, my cadence. And so you dial in all these things and then it's coaching you and playing with you the whole time too. It's like, okay, for 30 seconds, let's kick it up a notch. Let's kick it down a notch. And you're going up through the mountains. So you're like getting passed and beaten by people. And then there's even power-ups in the game. And that's right. As always, we have an insider secret for everybody that doesn't go in the show notes. And that is the coffee break. There's a function in there. If you're riding with buddies and you've ridden for like over a half hour, you can hit the coffee break button and it'll give you enough time to run to the bathroom and it will keep you with your pack so you don't lose everybody that you're with. But of course, the joke is they coffee break people where you're in a race and you're going up a hill. And so you like crank as hard as you can to catch the lead guy going up the hill. And then you hit the coffee break and let it drag you up the hill, let him pull you up the hill and you don't have to bike. And so that's the insider joke with that. But yeah, it's just amazing. And it has experience points and you can power up and buy better bikes too. It's totally just like the real biking world. Like as a newbie, I'm riding this rotten steel frame bike that can't do anything. And once I get 1 million points, I can buy this carbon fiber frame bike that's going to shave 2 minutes a mile off of my time. So I'm grinding my way towards that as we go. But yeah, so all that we've talked about Strava before. Like I'm a Strava junkie. I will friend up anybody that's over there and love to meet over there. But so Zwift is my new thing and is getting me through the winter. And I've been getting my science, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I wanted to throw that out to everybody because it's just been kind of a fun and a gear thing as we're going on. Next, I've had two. I also wanted to mention Dave Letterman. My next guest needs no introduction. If you follow those interviews, they are fantastic. He has Mr. Beast on there. So that's kind of a classic, like old network TV guy meets YouTube superstar. And he even mentions Purple Cow. Mr. Beast talks about Purple Cow. So I had forwarded that over to Seth Godin that he's, made it into the lexicon. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that as far as YouTube stuff and YouTube stars? I see the stuff Mr. Beast is doing, and he does take some criticism in that he makes no bones about it's just all about the views. Like I'll totally do the Hunger Games. I don't care. Whereas Mark Rober is somebody who's done some amazing stuff as far as science and education. But is there anything that you're watching on that front?
The big thing is that the folks who are at the top of their game in those places do a really good job with omnichannel. Like if you watch and see, how they promote on Twitch and on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, they have a headquarters and then they have their satellite branches, and they do it's like any form of product marketing. A lot of people think, so-and-so just hops on YouTube and throws up a video and that's that. No, there is a machine at work. Anyone who's got more than 1 million subs on their channel likely has at least one other full-time person, if not more. And once you get over the 10 million subs mark, you are talking about people who have a crew, like a production company that they built, 10, 15, 20 people who are doing social media, who are doing paid ads, who are doing all the stuff to support their shows. It's fascinating when you look at like the channel history. You can use tools like I can't remember some things like TubeBuddy and stuff like that. Yeah, and you look at the growth of these channels. How after certain points you have to throw some gas on the fire with paid ads, with all this kind of support. They all have email lists and text lines and all the machinery that you need to keep an audience engaged. And they're really great. I mean, these are the places to watch if you want to figure out what it's going to mean to scale your content business. And I'm not sure that playbook even works anymore for new entrants, right? So for folks like a Mr. Beast or whatever, like any new venture that they start, you look at Google Foods, etc. Any new venture they start, any new channel they start, they have the sort of the incumbent advantage. They can take their existing channel audience and point them to the new one and jumpstart it quickly. If you are doing a complete cold start, you're up against a gazillion and a half new creators, half of which are probably AI, and it's going to be very, very difficult to break through if you don't have some other mechanism or a tremendous budget to throw behind advertising to overcome the cold start problem. And this is something that is true across all public media. The cold start problem is real, and it is getting costlier and harder to overcome.
All right, that sounds good. I had just a gear update. I got sent a new amp for my Klipsch, the 5s, and replaced it out, and they all seem to be working. But in the meantime, I picked up a pair of Victrola Tempos, which are similar speakers, but they are an order of magnitude less expensive, and Wirecutter recommended. Also interesting, they have Auracast built in. So they sell a turntable and a couple other speakers that you can just have Auracast, have this as a multi-speaker system in your house. So that's pretty interesting. But I will give it another couple weeks of field testing to make sure that it delivers before we really do a full-on recommendation for that. And otherwise that's, we're kind of getting back into the swing of things. Travel's picking up. I will probably be at the New Fronts down in Brooklyn. That's kind of still coming together. But so if you're doing new media ads, if you're going to be around for that, give me a yell. Of course, you can sign up for the text line at 617-812-5494. You just got back from Canada and you've got other travel coming. What's going on? Anything else on the calendar to brag about?
We got some stuff coming up at the end of April, and there's a bunch of just paperwork that is in flight right now that hopefully will be coming sooner rather than later. But yeah, the next thing that I know of them getting on a plane for will be in Charlotte, North Carolina, towards the end of April and things. But we're working on US-based workshop for AI and things, and the hardest part is just keeping up with everything that's changing. Like I was joking, it's impossible to build a moat when the castle is on wheels and getting faster every day.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, the moving target thing is absolutely real where we're at today, and I don't see any signs of anything slowing down anytime soon, too. So you better listen to every episode. That's the easy answer.
You better.
All right, that'll do it for us for this week. So until next week, enjoy the coffee.
Enjoy the coffee.
You've been listening to Marketing Over Coffee. Christopher Penn blogs at christopherspenn.com. Read more from John J. Wall at jw5150.com. The Marketing Over Coffee theme song is called Mellow G by Funk Masters, and you can find it at Musical.ly from Mevio, or follow the link in our show notes.